the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Sabha Parva. Section 37, Aragyaharana Parva continued. Sisupala said, O thou of the Kuru race, this one of the Vrishni race doth not deserve royal worship as if he were a king, in the midst of all these illustrious monarchs. O son of Pandu, this conduct of thine in thus willingly worshipping him with eyes like lotus petals is not worthy of the illustrious Pandavas. Ye sons of Pandu, ye are children. Ye know not what morality is, for that is very subtle. Bhishma, this son also of Ganga is of little knowledge and hath transgressed the rules of morality, by giving ye such counsel. And, O Bhishma, if one like thee, possessed of virtue and morality acteth from motives of interest, he is deserving of censure among the honest and the wise. How doth he of the Dasraha race, who is not even a king, accept worship before these kings, and how is it that he hath been worshipped by ye? O bull of the Kuru race, if thou regardest Krishna as the oldest in age, here is Vasudeva, and how can his son be said so in his presence? Or, if thou regardest Vasudeva as your well-wisher and supporter, here is Drupta. How then can Madhava deserve the first worship? Or, O son of Kuru, regardest thou Krishna as preceptor? When Drona is here, how hast thou worshipped him of the Vrishni race? Or, O son of Kuru, regardest thou Krishna as the Ritwija? When old Dwaipayana is here, how hath Krishna been worshipped by thee? Again when old Bhishma, the son of Santanu, that foremost of men who is not to die save at his own wish is here, why, O king, hath Krishna been worshipped by thee? When the brave Aswathaman, versed in every branch of knowledge is here, why, O king, hath Krishna, O thou of the Kuru race, been worshipped by thee? When that king of kings, Duryodhana, that foremost of men, is here, as also Kripa the preceptor of the Bharata princes, why hath Krishna been worshipped by thee? How, O son of Pandu, passing over Druma, the preceptor of the Kimpurasas, hast thou worshipped Krishna? When the invincible Bhishmaka and King Pandya possessed of every auspicious mark, and that foremost of kings Rukmi and Eklavya and Selya, the king of the Madras, are here, how, O son of Pandu, hast thou offered the first worship unto Krishna? Here also is Kama ever boasting of his strength amongst all kings, and really endued with great might, the favorite disciple of the Brahmana Jamdagnya, the hero who vanquished in battle all monarchs by his own strength alone. How, O Bharata, hast thou, passing him over, offered the first worship unto Krishna? The slayer of Madhu is neither a sacrificial priest nor a preceptor, nor a king. That thou hast notwithstanding all these worshipped him, O chief of the Kurus, could only have been from motives of gain. If, O Bharata, it was your wish to offer the first worship unto the slayer of Madhu, why were these monarchs brought here to be insulted thus? We have not paid tributes to the illustrious son of Kunti from fear, from desire of gain, or from having been won over by conciliation. On the other hand, we have paid him tribute simply because he hath been desirous of the imperial dignity from motives of virtue. And yet he it is that thus insulteth us. O king, from what else, save motives of insult, could it have been that thou hast worshipped Krishna, who possesseth not the insignia of royalty, with the Argya in the midst of the assembled monarchs? Indeed, the reputation for virtue that the son of Dharma hath been acquired by him without cause, for who would offer such undue worship unto one that hath fallen off from virtue? This wretch born in the race of the Vrishnis unrighteously slew of old the illustrious King Jasantha. Righteousness hath today been abandoned by Yudhishthira, and meanness only hath been displayed by him in consequence of his having offered the argya to Krishna. If the helpless sons of Kunti were affrighted and disposed to meanness, thou, O Madhava, ought to have enlightened them as to thy claims to the first worship. Why also, O Janardana, didst thou accept the worship of which thou art unworthy, although it was offered unto thee by those mean-minded princes? Thou thinkest much of the worship unworthily offered unto thee, like a dog that lappeth in solitude a quantity of clarified butter that it hath obtained. O Janardana, this is really no insult offered unto the monarchs. On the other hand, it is thou whom the Kurus have insulted. Indeed, O slayer of Madhu, as a wife is to one that is without virile power, as a fine show is to one that is blind, so is this royal worship to thee who art no king. What Yudhishthira is, hath been seen, what Bhishma is, hath been seen, and what this Vasudeva is hath been seen. Indeed, all these have been seen as they are. Having spoken these words, Sisupala rose from his excellent seat, and accompanied by the kings, went out of that assembly. Thus ends the 37th section in the Aradhyaharana Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 38, Aradhyaharana Parva continued. Vasampayana said, Then the king Yudhishthira hastily ran after Sisupala and spoke unto him sweetly and in a conciliating tone the following words, O Lord of earth, what thou hast said is scarcely proper for thee. O king, it is highly sinful and needlessly cruel. Insult not Bhishma, O king, by saying that he doth not know what virtue is. Behold, these many kings, older than thou art, all approve of the worship offered unto Krishna. It behoveth thee to bear it patiently like them. O ruler of Chedi, Bhishma knoweth Krishna truly. Thou knowest him not so well as this one of the Kuru race. Bhishma also, after this, said, He that approveth not the worship offered unto Krishna, the oldest one in the universe, deserveth neither soft words nor conciliation. The chief of warriors of the Kshatriya race, who having overcome a Kshatriya in battle and brought him under his power, setteth him free, becometh the gum, preceptor or master, of the vanquished one. I do not behold in this assembly of kings even one ruler of men who hath not been vanquished in battle by the energy of this son of the Satvata race. This one, meaning Krishna, here, of undefiled glory, deserveth to be worshipped not by ourselves alone, but being of mighty arms, he deserveth to be worshipped by the three worlds also. Innumerable warriors among Kshatriyas have been vanquished in battle by Krishna. The whole universe without limit is established in him of the Vrishni race. Therefore do we worship Krishna amongst the best and the oldest, and not others. It behoveth thee not to say so. Let thy understanding be never so. I have, O king, waited upon many persons that are old in knowledge. I have heard from all those wise men, while talking of the numerous much regarded attributes of the accomplished Sorai. I have also heard many times all the acts recited by people that Krishna of great intelligence hath performed since his birth. And, O king of Chedi, we do not from caprice, or keeping in view our relationship or the benefits he may confer on us, worship Janardana who is worshipped by the good on earth and who is the source of the happiness of every creature. We have offered unto him the first worship because of his fame, his heroism, his success. There is none here of even tender years whom we have not taken into consideration. Passing over many persons that are foremost for their virtues, we have regarded Hari as deserving of the first worship. Amongst the Brahmanas one that is superior in knowledge, amongst the Kshatriyas one that is superior in strength, amongst the Vaisyas one that is superior in possessions and wealth, and amongst the Sudras one that is superior in years, deserveth to be worshipped. In the matter of the worship offered unto Govinda, there are two reasons, viz., knowledge of the Vedas and their branches and also excess of strength. Who else is there in the world of men save Keswa that is so distinguished? Indeed, liberality, cleverness, knowledge of the Vedas, bravery, modesty, achievements, excellent intelligence, humility, beauty, firmness, contentment and prosperity all dwell forever in Achyuta. Therefore, ye kings, it behoveth ye to approve of the worship that hath been offered unto Krishna, who is of great accomplishments, who as the preceptor, the father, the guru, is worthy of the agya and deserving of everybody's worship. Hrishikesa is the sacrificial priest, the guru, worthy of being solicited to accept one's daughter in marriage, the Snedka, the king, the friend, therefore hath Achyuta been worshipped by us. Krishna is the origin of the universe and that in which the universe is to dissolve. Indeed, this universe of mobile and immobile creatures hath sprung into existence from Krishna only. He is the unmanifest primal cause, Avyakta Prakriti, the creator, the eternal, and beyond the ken of all creatures. Therefore doth he of unfading glory deserve highest worship. The intellect, the seat of sensibility, the five elements, air, heat, water, ether, earth, and the four species of beings, oviparous, viviparous, born of filthy damp and vegetal, are all established in Krishna, the sun, the moon, the constellations, the planets, all the principal directions, the intermediate directions, are all established in Krishna. As the Agnihotra is the foremost among all Vedic sacrifices, as the Gayatri is the foremost among mitters, as the king is the foremost among men, as the ocean is the foremost among all rivers, as the moon is the foremost among all constellations, as the sun is the foremost among all luminous bodies, as the Meru is the foremost among all mountains, as Gadura is the foremost among all birds, so as long as the upward, downward, and sideway course of the universe lasteth, Keswa is the foremost in all the worlds including the regions of the celestials. This Sisupala is a mere boy and hence he knoweth not Krishna, and ever and everywhere speaketh of Krishna thus. This ruler of Chedi will never see virtue in that light in which one that is desirous of acquiring high merit will see it. Who is there among the old and the young or among these illustrious lords of earth that doth not regard Krishna as deserving of worship or that doth not worship Krishna? If Sisupala regardeth this worship as undeserved, it behoveth him to do what is proper in this matter. Thus ends the 38th section in the Aradhyaharana Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 39, Aradhyaharana Parva continued. Vasampayana said, the mighty Bhishma ceased. Having said this, Satdeva then answered Sisupala in words of grave import, saying, if amongst ye there be any king that cannot bear to see Keswa of dark hue, the slayer of Kesi, the possessor of immeasurable energy, worshipped by me, this my foot is placed on the heads of almighty ones, like him. When I say this, let that one give me an adequate reply. And let those kings that possess intelligence approve the worship of Krishna, who is the preceptor, the father, the guru, and deserveth the argya and the worship, already offered unto him. When Sahdeva thus showed his forth, no one among those intelligent and wise and proud and mighty monarchs said anything. And a shower of flowers fell on Sahdeva's head, and an incorporeal voice said, "Excellent, excellent." Then Narada, clad in black deerskin, speaking of both the future and the past, that dispeller of all doubts, fully acquainted with all the worlds, said in the midst of innumerable creatures, these words of the clearest import: those men that will not worship the lotus-eyed Krishna should be regarded as dead though moving, and should never be talked to on any occasion. Vasampayana continued, then that god among men, Satdeva, cognizant of the distinction between a Brahmana and a Kshatriya, having worshipped those that deserved worship, completed that ceremony. But upon Krishna having received the first worship, Sunita, Sisupala, that mower of force with eyes red as copper from anger, addressed those rulers of men and said, "When I am here to head ye all, what are ye thinking of now? Arrayed, let us stand in battle against the assembled Vrishnis and the Pandavas." And the bull of the Chedis, having thus stirred the kings up, began to consult with them how to obstruct the completion of the sacrifice. All the invited monarchs who had come to the sacrifice, with Sunita as their chief, looked angry and their faces became pale. They all said, "We must so act that the final sacrificial rite performed by Yudhishthira and the worship of Krishna may not be regarded as having been acquiesced in by us." And impelled by a belief in their power and great assurance, the kings, deprived of reason through anger, began to say this. And being moved by self-confidence and smarting under the insult offered unto them, the monarchs repeatedly exclaimed thus. Though their friends sought to appease them, their faces glowed with anger like those of roaring lions driven away from their prey. Krishna then understood that the vast sea of monarchs with its countless waves of troops was preparing for a terrific rush. Thus ends the 39th section in the Aradhyaharana Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 40, Sisupalabadha Parva. Vasampayana said, beholding that vast assembly of kings agitated with wrath, even like the terrific sea agitated by the winds that blow at the time of the universal dissolution, Yudhishthira addressing the aged Bhishma, that chief of intelligent men and the grandsire of the Kurus, even like Purohita, Indra, that slayer of foes, of abundant energy addressing Vrihaspati, said, "This vast ocean of kings hath been agitated by wrath. Tell me, O grandsire, what I should do in view of this. O grandsire, now what I should do that my sacrifice may not be obstructed and my subjects may not be injured." When King Yudhishthira the just, conversant with morality, said this, Bhishma the grandsire of the Kurus, spoke these words in reply, "Fear not, O tiger of the Kurus. Can the dog slay the lion? I have before this found out a way that is both beneficial and comfortable to practice. As dogs in a pack approaching the lion that is asleep bark together, so are all these lords of earth. Indeed, O child, like dogs before the lion, these monarchs are barking in rage before the sleeping lion of the Vrishni race. Achyuta now is like a lion that is asleep. Until he waketh up, this chief of the Chedis, this lion among men maketh these monarchs look like lions. O child, O thou foremost of all monarchs, this Sisupala possessed of little intelligence is desirous of taking along with him all these kings, through the agency of him who is the soul of the universe, to the regions of Yam. Assuredly, O Bharata, Vishnu hath been desirous of taking back unto himself the energy that existed in this Sisupala. O chief of all intelligent men, O son of Kunti, the intelligence of this wicked-minded king of the Chedis, as also of all these monarchs, hath become perverse. Indeed, the intelligence of all those whom this tiger among men desireth to take unto himself, becometh perverse even like that of this king of the Chedis, O Yudhishthira. Madhava is the progenitor, as also the destroyer of all created beings of the four species, O Viparas, etc., existing in the three worlds. Vasampayana continued, then the ruler of Chedis, having heard these words of Bhishma, addressed the latter, O Bharata, in words that were stern and rough. Thus ends the 40th section in the Sisupala Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 41, Sisupala Parva continued. Sisupala said, Old and infamous wretch of thy race, art thou not ashamed of affrighting all these monarchs with these numerous false terrors? Thou art the foremost of the Kurus, and living as thou dost in the third state, celibacy, it is but fit for thee that thou shouldst give such counsel that is so wide of morality. Like a boat tied to another boat or the blind following the blind, are the Kurus who have thee for their guide. Thou hast once more simply pained our hearts by reciting particularly the deeds of this one, Krishna, such as the slaying of Putna and others. Arrogant and ignorant as thou art, and desirous of praising Keswa, why doth not this tongue of thine split up into 100 parts? How dost thou, superior as thou art in knowledge, desire to praise that cowboy in respect of whom even men of little intelligence may address invectives? If Krishna in his infancy slew a vulture, what is there remarkable in that, or in that other feat of his, O Bhishma, viz. In his slaughter of Asv and Vrishva, both of whom were unskilled in battle? If this one threw down, by a kick, an inanimate piece of wood, viz. A car, what is there, O Bhishma, wonderful in that? O Bhishma, what is there remarkable in this one's having supported for a week the Govardhan mount which is like an anthill? While sporting on the top of a mountain, this one ate a large quantity of food. Hearing these words of thine many have wondered exceedingly. But, O thou who art conversant with the rules of morality, is not this still more wrongful that that great person, viz. Kansa, whose food this one ate, hath been slain by him? Thou infamous one of the Kuru race, thou art ignorant of the rules of morality. Hast thou not ever heard, from wise men speaking unto thee, what I would now tell thee? The virtuous and the wise always instruct the honest that weapons must never be made to descend upon women and kin and Brahmanas and upon those whose food hath been taken, as also upon those whose shelter hath been enjoyed. It seemeth, O Bhishma, that all these teachings hath been thrown away by thee, O infamous one of the Kuru race, desiring to praise Keswa. Thou describest him before me as great and superior in knowledge and in age, as if I knew nothing. If at thy word, O Bhishma, one that hath slain women, meaning Putna, and can be worshipped, then what is to become of this great lesson? How can one who is such, deserve praise, O Bhishma? This one is the foremost of all wise men. This one is the Lord of the universe. Hearing these words of thine, Janardana believeth that these are all true. But surely, they are all false. The verses that a chanter sings, even if he sings them often, produce no impression on him. And every creature acts according to his disposition, even like the bird bulling that picks the particles of flesh from between the lion's teeth, though preaching against rashness. Assuredly thy disposition is very mean. There is not the least doubt about it. And so also, it seemeth that the sons of Pandu who regard Krishna as deserving of worship and who have thee for their guide, are possessed of a sinful disposition. Possessing a knowledge of virtue, thou hast fallen off from the path of the wise. Therefore thou art sinful. Who, O Bhishma, knowing himself to be virtuous and superior in knowledge, will so act as thou hast done from motives of virtue. If thou knowest the ways of the morality, if thy mind is guided by wisdom, blessed be thou. Why then, O Bhishma, was that virtuous girl Amban, who had set her heart upon another, carried off by thee, so proud of wisdom and virtue? Thy brother Vichitravirya conformably to the ways of the honest and the virtuous, knowing that girl's condition, did not marry her though brought by thee, boasting as thou dost of virtue, in thy very sight, upon the widow of thy brother were sons begotten by another according to the ways of the honest. Where is thy virtue, O Bhishma? This thy celibacy, which thou leddest either from ignorance or from impotence, is fruitless. O thou who art conversant with virtue, I do not behold thy well-being. Thou who expoundest morality in this way dost not seem to have ever waited upon the old. Worship, gift, study, sacrifices distinguished by large gifts to the Brahmanas, these all equal not in merit even 1/16th part of that which is obtainable by the possession of a son. The merit, O Bhishma, that is acquired by numberless woes and fasts assuredly becomes fruitless in the case of one that is childless. Thou art childless, and old, and the expounder of false morality. Like the swan in the story, thou shalt now die at the hands of thy relatives. Other men possessed of knowledge have said this of old. I will presently recite it fully in thy hearing. There lived of yore an old swan on the sea coast, ever speaking of morality, but otherwise in his conduct, he used to instruct the feathery tribe. Practice ye virtue and forego sin, these were the words that other truthful birds, O Bhishma, constantly heard him utter. And the other oviparous creatures ranging the sea, it hath been heard by us, O Bhishma, used for virtue's sake to bring him food. And, O Bhishma, all those other birds, keeping their eggs, with him, ranged and dived in the waters of the sea. And the sinful old swan, attentive to his own pursuits, used to eat up the eggs of all those birds that foolishly trusted in him. After a while, when the eggs were decreasing in number, a bird of great wisdom had his suspicions roused and had even witnessed the affair one day. And having witnessed the sinful act of the old swan, that bird in great sorrow spoke unto all the other birds. Then, O thou best of the Kurus, all those birds witnessing with their own eyes the act of the old swan, approached that wretch of false conduct and slew him. Thy behavior, O Bhishma, is even like that of the old swan. These lords of earth might slay thee in anger like those creatures of the feathery tribe slaying the old swan. Persons conversant with the Puranas recite a proverb. O Bhishma, as regards this occurrence, I shall, O Bharata, repeat it to thee fully. It is even this, O thou that supported thyself on thy wings, though thy heart is affected by the passions, thou preachest yet of virtue, but this thy sinful act of eating up the eggs transgressed thy speech. Thus ends the 41st section in the Sisupala Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 42, Sisupala Parva continued. Sisupala said, that mighty King Jasandha, who desired not to fight with Krishna, saying he is a slave, was worthy of my greatest esteem. Who will regard as praiseworthy the act which was done by Keswa, as also by Bhima and Arjuna, in the matter of Jasantha's death. Entering by an improper gate, disguised as a Brahmana, this Krishna observed the strength of King Jasantha. And when that monarch offered at first unto this wretch water to wash his feet, it was then that he denied his Brahmanahood from seeming motives of virtue. And when Jasantha, O thou of the Kuru race, asked Krishna and Bhima and Dhananjaya to eat, it was this Krishna that refused that monarch's request. If this one is the Lord of the universe, as this fool represented him to be, why doth he not regard himself as a Brahmana? This, however, surpriseth me greatly, that though thou leddest the Pandavas away from the path of the wise, they yet regard thee as honest. Or, perhaps, this is scarcely a matter of surprise in respect of those that have thee, O Bharata, womanish in disposition and bent down with age, for their counselor in everything. Vasampayana continued, hearing these words of Sisupala, harsh both in import and sound, that foremost of mighty men, Bhimsena endued with energy became angry, and his eyes, naturally large and expanding and like unto lotus leaves, became still more extended and red as copper under the influence of that rage. And the assembled monarchs beheld on his forehead 3 lines of wrinkles like the Ganga of treble currents on the treble-peaked mountain. When Bhimsena began to grind his teeth in rage, the monarchs beheld his face resembling that of Death himself, at the end of the Yuga, prepared to swallow every creature. And as the hero endued with great energy of mind was about to leap up impetuously, the mighty armed Bhishma caught him like Mahadev seizing Mahasena, the celestial generalissimo. And, O Bharata, Bhima's wrath was soon appeased by Bhishma, the grandsire of the Kurus, with various kinds of counsel. And Bhima, that chastiser of foes, could not disobey Bhishma's words, like the ocean that never transgresseth, even when swollen with the waters of the rainy season, its continents. But, O king, even though Bhima was angry, the brave Sisupala, depending on his own manhood, did not tremble in fear. And though Bhima was leaping up impetuously every moment, Sisupala bestowed not a single thought on him, like a lion that wrecks not a little animal in rage. The powerful king of Chedi, beholding Bhima of terrible prowess in such rage, laughingly said, Release him, O Bhishma. I let all the monarchs behold him scorched by my prowess like an insect in fire. Hearing these words of the ruler of the Chedis, Bhishma, that foremost of the Kurus and chief of all intelligent men, spoke unto Bhima these words. Thus ends the 42nd section in the Sisupala Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 43, Sisupala Parva continued. Bhishma said, This Sisupala was born in the line of the king of Chedi with 3 eyes and 4 hands. As soon as he was born, he screamed and brayed like an ass. On that account, his father and mother along with their relatives, were struck with fear. And beholding these extraordinary omens, his parents resolved to abandon him. But an incorporeal voice, about this time, said unto the king and his wife with their ministers and priests, all with hearts paralyzed by anxiety, those words, This thy son, O king, that hath been born will become both fortunate and superior in strength. Therefore thou hast no fear from him. Indeed cherish the child without anxiety. He will not die in childhood. His time is not yet come. He that will slay him with weapons hath also been born. Hearing these words the mother, rendered anxious by affection for her son, addressed the invisible being and said, I bow with joined hands unto him that hath uttered these words respecting my son, whether he be an exalted divinity or any other being, let him tell me another word. I desire to hear who will be the slayer of this my son. The invisible being then said, he upon whose lap this child being placed, the superfluous arms of his will fall down upon the ground like a pair of 5-headed snakes, and at the sight of whom his third eye on the forehead will disappear, will be his slayer. Hearing of the child's 3 eyes and 4 arms, as also of the words of the invisible being, all the kings of the earth went to Chedi to behold him. The king of Chedi worshipping, as each deserved, the monarchs that came, gave his child upon their laps one after another. And though the child was placed upon the laps of 1,000 kings, one after another, yet that which the incorporeal voice had said came not to pass. And having heard of all this at Dwaravati, the mighty Yadva heroes Sankarshana and Janardana also went to the capital of the Chedis, to see their father's sister, that daughter of the Yadvas, the queen of Chedi. And saluting everybody according to his rank, and the king and queen also, and inquiring after everybody's welfare, both Rama and Keswa took their seats, and after those heroes had been worshipped, the queen with great pleasure herself placed the child on the lap of Damodara. As soon as the child was placed on his lap, those superfluous arms of his fell down, and the eye on his forehead also disappeared. And beholding this, the queen in alarm and anxiety begged of Krishna a boon. And she said, O mighty armed Krishna, I am afflicted with fear, grant me a boon. Thou art the assurer of all afflicted ones, and that the dispeller of everybody's fear. Thus addressed by her, Krishna, that son of the Yadu race, said, Fear not, O respected one. Thou art acquainted with morality. Thou needest have no fear from me. What boon shall I give thee? What shall I do, O aunt? Whether able or not, I shall do thy bidding. Thus spoken to by Krishna, the queen said, O thou of great strength, thou wilt have to pardon the offences of Sisupala for my sake, O tiger of the Yadu race. No, O Lord, even this is the boon that I ask. Krishna then said, O aunt, even when he will deserve to be slain, I will pardon 100 offences of his. Grieve thou not. Bhishma continued, Even thus, O Bhima, is this wretch of a king Sisupala of wicked heart, who, proud of the boon granted by Govinda, summons thee to battle. Thus ends the 43rd section in the Sisupala Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 44, Sisupala Parva continued. Bhishma said, The will under which the ruler of Chedi summoned thee to fight, though thou art of strength that knoweth no deterioration, is scarcely his own intention. Assuredly, this is the purpose of Krishna himself, the Lord of the universe. O Bhima, what king is there on earth that would dare abuse me thus, as this wretch of his race, already possessed by death, hath done today? This mighty armed one is, without doubt, a portion of Hari's energy. And surely, the Lord desireth to take back unto himself that energy of his own. In consequence of this, O tiger of the Kuru race, this tiger-like king of Chedi, so wicked of heart, roareth in such a way, caring little for us all. Vasampayana continued, hearing these words of Bhishma, the king of Chedi could bear no more. He then replied in rage unto Bhishma in these words, Let our foes, O Bhishma, be endued with that prowess which this Keswa hath, whom thou like a professional chanter of hymns praisest, rising repeatedly from thy seat. If thy mind, O Bhishma, delighteth so in praising others, then praise thou these kings, leaving of Krishna. Praise thou this excellent of kings, Darada, the ruler of Valhika, who rent this earth as soon as he was born. Praise thou, O Bhishma, this Karna, the ruler of the territories of Anga and Vanga, who is equal in strength unto him of 1,000 eyes, who draweth a large bow, who endued with mighty arms oneath celestial earrings of heavenly make with which he was born, and this coat of mail possessing the splendor of the rising sun, who vanquished in a wrestling encounter the invincible Jasanta equal unto Vaswa himself, and who tore and mangled that monarch. O Bhishma, praise Drona and Aswatthama, who both father and son, are mighty warriors, worthy of praise, and the best of Brahmanas, and either of whom, O Bhishma, if enraged could annihilate this earth with its mobile and immobile creatures, as I believe. I do not behold, O Bhishma, the king that is equal in battle unto Drona or Aswatthama. Why wishest thou not to praise them? Passing over Duryodhana, that mighty armed king of kings, who is unequalled in the whole earth, girt with her seas, and King Jayadratha accomplished in weapons and endued with great prowess, and Druma the preceptor of the Kimpurushas and celebrated over the world for prowess, and Sir Devata's son, old Kripa, the preceptor of the Bharata princes and endued with great energy. Why dost thou praise Keswa? Passing over that foremost of bowmen, that excellent of kings, Rukmin of great energy, why praisest thou Keswa? Passing over Bhishmaka of abundant energy, and King Dantavkara, and Bagdakta, known for his innumerable sacrificial stakes, and Jayatsna the king of the Magad, and Virata and Drupta, and Sakuni and Vrihadwala, and Vinda and Anuvinda of Avant Pandya, Sweta Uttama Sankhya of great prosperity, the proud Vrishsena, the powerful Eklavya, and the great charioteer Kalinga of abundant energy. Why dost thou praise Keswa? And, O Bhishma, if thy mind is always inclined to sing the praises of others, why dost thou not praise Salya and other rulers of the earth? O king, what can be done by me when it seemeth thou hast not heard anything before from virtuous old men giving lessons in morality? Hast thou never heard, O Bhishma, that reproach and glorification, both of self and others, are not practices of those that are respectable? There is no one that approveth thy conduct, O Bhishma, in unceasingly praising with devotion, from ignorance alone, Keswa so unworthy of praise. How dost thou, from thy wish alone, establish the whole universe in the servitor and cowherd of Goja, Kansa? Perhaps, O Bharata, this thy inclination is not conformable to thy true nature, like to what may be seen in the bird Goinga, as hath already been said by me. There is a bird called Guling living on the other side of the Himamvat. O Bhishma, that bird ever uttereth words of adverse import. Never do anything rash, this is what she always saith, but never understandeth that she herself always acteth very rashly. Possessed of little intelligence, that bird picketh from the lion's mouth the pieces of flesh sticking between the teeth, and at a time when the lion is employed in eating. Assuredly, O Bhishma, that bird leaveth at the pleasure of the lion. O sinful wretch, thou always speakest like that bird. And assuredly, O Bhishma, thou art alive at the pleasure only of these kings. Employed in acts contrary to the opinions of all, there is none else like thee. Vasampayana continued, hearing these harsh words of the ruler of Chedi, Bhishma, O king, said in the hearing of the king of Chedi, truly am I alive at the pleasure of these rulers of earth. But I do regard these kings as not equal to even a straw. As soon as these words were spoken by Bhishma, the kings became inflamed with wrath. And the down of some amongst them stood erect and some began to reprove Bhishma. And hearing those words of Bhishma, some amongst them, that were wielders of large bows exclaimed, "This wretched Bhishma, though old, is exceedingly boastful. He deserveth not our pardon. Therefore, ye kings, incensed with rage as this Bhishma is, it is well that this wretch were slain like an animal, or, mustering together, let us burn him in a fire of grass or straw." Hearing these words of the monarchs, Bhishma, the grandsire of the Kurus, endued with great intelligence, addressing those lords of earth, said, "I do not see the end of our speeches, for words may be answered with words. Therefore, ye lords of earth, listen ye all unto what I say. Whether I be slain like an animal or burned in a fire of grass and straw, thus do I distinctly place my foot on the heads of ye all. Here is Govinda, that knoweth no deterioration. Him have we worshipped. Let him who wisheth for speedy death, summon to battle Madhava of dark hue and the wielder of the discus and the make, and falling enter into and mingle with the body of this god." Thus ends the 44th section in the Sisupala Parva of the Sabha Parva. Section 45, Sisupala Parva continued. Vasampayana said, hearing these words of Bhishma, the ruler of Chedi endued with exceeding prowess, desirous of combating with Vasudeva addressed him and said, "O Janardana, I challenge thee. Come, fight with me until I slay thee today with all the Pandavas. For, O Krishna, the sons of Pandu also, who disregarding the claims of all these kings, have worshipped thee who art no king, deserve to be slain by me along with thee. Even this is my opinion, O Krishna, that they who from childishness have worshipped thee, as if thou deservest it, although thou art unworthy of worship, being only a slave and a wretch and no king, deserve to be slain by me." Having said this, that tiger among kings stood there roaring in anger. And after Sisupala had ceased, Krishna, addressing all the kings in the presence of the Pandavas, spoke these words in a soft voice, "Ye kings, this wicked-minded one, who is the son of a daughter of the Satvata race, is a great enemy of us of the Satvata race, and though we never seek to injure him, he ever seeketh our evil. This wretch of cruel deeds, ye kings, hearing that we had gone to the city of Pragajyotisha, came and burned Dwarka, although he is the son of my father's sister. While King Bhoja was sporting on the Ravtaka hill, this one fell upon the attendants of that king and slew and led away many of them in chains to his own city. Sinful in all his purpose, this wretch, in order to obstruct the sacrifice of my father, stole the sacrificial horse of the horse sacrifice that had been let loose under the guard of armed men. Prompted by sinful motives, this one ravished the reluctant wife of the innocent Vabru, Akrura, on her way from Dwarka to the country of the Saviras. This injurer of his maternal uncle, disguising himself in the attire of the king of Karusha, ravished also the innocent Bhadra, the princess of Visala, the intended bride of King Karusha. I have patiently borne all these sorrows for the sake of my father's sister. It is, however, very fortunate that all this hath occurred today in the presence of all the kings. Behold ye all today the hostility this one beareth towards me. And know ye also all that he hath done me at my back. For the excess of that pride in which he hath indulged in the presence of all these monarchs, he deserveth to be slain by me. I am ill able to pardon today the injuries that he hath done me. Desirous of speedy death, this fool had desired Rukmini. But the fool obtained her not, like a Sudra failing to obtain the audition of the Vedas. Vasampayana continued, hearing these words of Vasudeva, All the assembled monarchs began to reprove the ruler of Chedi. But the powerful Sisupala, having heard these words, laughed aloud and spoke thus, O Krishna, art thou not ashamed in saying in this assembly, especially before all these kings, that Rukmini, thy wife, had been coveted by me? O slayer of Madhu, who else is there than thee, who regarding himself a man would say in the midst of respectable men that his wife had been intended for somebody else? O Krishna, pardon me if thou pleasest, or pardon me not, but angry or friendly, what canst thou do unto me? And while Sisupala was speaking thus, the exalted slayer of Madhu thought in his mind of the disgust that humbled the pride of the Asuras. And as soon as the discus came into his hands, skilled in speech, the illustrious one loudly uttered these words, Listen, ye lords of earth, why this one had hitherto been pardoned by me, as asked by his mother. 100 offences of his were to be pardoned by me. Even this was the boon she had asked, and even this I granted her. That number, ye kings, hath become full. I shall now slay him in your presence, ye monarchs. Having said this, the chief of the Yadus, that slayer of all foes, in anger, instantly cut off the head of the ruler of Chedi by means of his discus. And the mighty armed one fell down like a cliff struck with thunder. And, O monarch, the assembled kings then beheld a fierce energy, like unto the sun in the sky, issue out of the body of the king of Chedi, and, O king, that energy then adored Krishna, possessed of eyes like lotus leaves and worshipped by all the worlds, and entered his body. And all the kings beholding the energy which entered that mighty armed chief of men regarded it as wonderful. And when Krishna had slain the king of Chedi, the sky, though cloudless, poured showers of rain, and blasting thunders were hurled, and the earth itself began to tremble. There were some among the kings who spoke not a word during those unspeakable moments, but merely sat gazing at Janardana. And some there were that rubbed in rage their palms with their forefingers. And there were others who, deprived of reason by rage, bit their lips with their teeth. And some amongst the kings applauded him of the Vrishni race in private. And some there were that became excited with anger, while others became mediators. The great rishis with pleased hearts praised Keswa and went away. And all the high-souled Brahmanas and the mighty kings that were there, beholding Krishna's prowess, became glad at heart and praised him. Yudhishthira then commanded his brothers to perform without delay the funeral rites of King Sisupala, the brave son of Damgosha, with proper respect. The sons of Pandu obeyed the behest of their brother. And Yudhishthira then, with all the kings, installed the son of King Sisupala in the sovereignty of the Chedis. Then that sacrifice, O monarch, of the king of the Kurus, possessed of great energy, blessed with every kind of prosperity, became exceedingly handsome and pleasing unto all young men, and commenced auspiciously, and all impediments removed, and furnished with abundance of wealth and corn, as also with plenty of rice and every kind of food. It was properly watched by Keswa. And Yudhishthira in due time completed the great sacrifice. And the mighty armed Janardana, the exalted Sorai, with his bow called Saranga and his discus and make, guarded that sacrifice till its completion. And all the Kshatriya monarchs, having approached the virtuous Yudhishthira who had bade after the conclusion of the sacrifice, said these words, By good fortune thou hast come out successful, O virtuous one. Thou hast obtained the imperial dignity. O thou of the Ajamida race, by thee hath been spread the fame of thy whole race. And, O King of kings, by this act of thine, thou hast also acquired great religious merit. We have been worshipped by thee to the full extent of our desires. We now tell thee that we are desirous of returning to our own kingdoms. It behoveth thee to grant us permission. Hearing these words of the monarchs, King Yudhishthira the Just, worshipping each as he deserved, commanded his brothers, saying, these monarchs had all come to us at their own pleasure. These chastisers of foes are now desirous of returning to their own kingdoms, bidding me farewell. Blessed be ye, follow ye these excellent kings to the confines of our own dominions. Hearing these words of their brother, the virtuous Pandav princes followed the kings, one after another as each deserved. The powerful Drishtadayumna followed, without loss of time, King Virata, and Dhananjaya followed the illustrious and mighty charioteer Yajnasena, and the mighty Bhimsena followed Bhishma and Dhritarashtra, and Sahdeva, that master of battle, followed the brave Drona and his son, and Nakula, O king, followed Suvala with his son, and the sons of Draupadi with the son of Subhadra followed those mighty warriors, the kings of the mountainous countries. And other bulls among Kshatriyas followed other Kshatriyas. And the Brahmanas by thousands also went away, duly worshipped. After all the kings and the Brahmanas had gone away, the powerful Vasudeva addressing Yudhishthira said, O son of the Kuru race, with thy leave, I also desire to go to Dwarka. By great good fortune, thou hast accomplished the foremost of sacrifices, Rajasuya. Thus addressed by Janardana, Yudhishthira replied, owing to thy grace, O Govinda, I have accomplished the great sacrifice. And it is owing to thy grace that the whole Kshatriya world, having accepted my sway, had come hither with valuable tribute. O hero, without thee, my heart never feeleth any delight. How can I therefore, O hero, give thee, O sinless one, leave to go? But thou must have to go to the city of Dwarka. The virtuous Hari of worldwide fame, thus addressed by Yudhishthira, cheerfully went with his cousin to Pritha and said, O aunt, thy sons have now obtained the imperial dignity. They have obtained vast wealth and been also crowned with success. Be pleased with all this, commanded by thee, O aunt, I desire to go to Dwarka. After this, Keswa bade farewell to Draupadi and Subhadra. Coming out then of the inner apartments accompanied by Yudhishthira, he performed his ablutions and went through the daily rites of worship, and then made the Brahmanas utter benedictions. Then the mighty armed Daruka came there with a car of excellent design and body resembling the clouds. And beholding that Garuda-bannered car arrived thither, the high-souled one, with eyes like lotus leaves, walked round it respectfully and ascending on it set out for Dwaravati. And King Yudhishthira the Just, blessed with prosperity, accompanied by his brothers, followed on foot the mighty Vasudeva. Then Hari with eyes like lotus leaves, stopping that best of cars for a moment, addressing Yudhishthira the son of Kunti, said, O King of Kings, cherishest thou thy subjects with ceaseless vigilance and patience. And as the clouds are unto all creatures, as the large tree of spreading bough is unto birds, as he of 1,000 eyes is unto the immortals, be thou the refuge and support of thy relatives. And Krishna and Yudhishthira having thus talked unto each other took each other's leave and returned to their respective homes. And, O king, after the chief of the Satvata race had gone to Dwaravati, King Duryodhan alone, with King Suvala's son, Sakuni, these bulls among men, continued to live in that celestial assembly house. Thus ends the 45th section in the Sisupalabhadha Parva of the Sabha Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.